Silent Knight accepted a challenge against WhanDamme, and it's sure to be an exciting one. Now, why is that exactly? Well, we are going to be seeing a Ruby Sapphire versus a Amber Mine, a little diggy hole, if you will, and it's sure to be an exciting match as they go head to head in this thrilling best of 3 match. Now, at the same time, we are going halfway through now on week 2, and it has been an absolutely dazzling experience as both are, both Silent Knight and WhanDamme have been climbing up the ranks trying to make their impact, but at the same time, we have 46 other competitors who are attempting to do the same thing. And with that, they have been doing an absolute great job fighting their way up the ranks, and the leaderboard is sure to be a thrilling uphill battle to climb to the top. And of course, these competitors are going to want to climb to the top because it will guarantee that they are going to be in the final tournament and able to compete for the prize support, which will be 2 playmats and potentially custom sleeves. So we still have a long way to go until that final tournament, as it will be the week before the next set releases. So keep that on your calendars. And again, if you guys want to be a part of this league, go ahead and join the Discord, get the League Night roll, and follow the steps in order to sign up, and you will get your next match on the following Monday. There's a lot of exciting things there. Now, back to this match, though. Silent Knight and WhanDamme have been doing actually pretty decent on the leaderboard so far, and a challenge could really make or break their climb. If you're able to secure that win, that can really help you get the MMR that you need to be able to make an impact. Now, at the same time, Silent Knight, we've been seeing him play a couple of times now, a Amber Steel, going more so on the mine build of that list. And so there's a couple of different ways that you, of course, can build Amber Steel, and he has opted for Diggy Hole. At the same time, Ruby Sapphire is an absolute dominant deck, and we saw it take second place in the NA Championships here just last week. And so there's a lot of debate on, which deck could reign supreme, and it's a very difficult thing. But at the same time, we see Silent Knight that has won the dice roll and has opted to go first, which can already be a big advantage on taking down a Ruby Sapphire. Still, though, there is a lot of game to play, and Silent Knight is going to need to have to make his impact fast and quick in order to be able to stand a chance against a very dominant end game deck. So without any further ado, let's dive in. Okay. All right, so both competitors have finished cutting their decks. They have their hands, good or bad, they are ready to go. And Silent Knight is going to be starting off fast, going with a Lilo for the ink and a Daisy. Now, this Daisy, of course, can be a very good card to really help you get some good early board aggression. At the same time, he is going to have to ink fast and hope that his opponent doesn't hit with the free cards. And at the same time, with Ruby Sapphire, you have to be mindful of a turn 3 Brawl, which could very well take out that Daisy and start hurting your growth right here. And so, but it looks like a Vital Sphere is going to be out onto the field and a Cheapo down for ink. So Silent Knight goes ahead and continues the aggression, though, going in for a Piglet. And now that's going to be an absolute crucial Piglet right there, because it's going to have the ability to be able to quest once and gain the 3 on the following turn and hopefully avoid a brawl. At the same time, you got to be very mindful of what Piglet you are going to be doing and when you are going to be playing that, because right now you're going to be seeing a Sail the Azurite Sea or a Tipo to guarantee the ramp. So really you have 2 rounds to really start to establish your board before, Ruby Sapphire really starts to try to deal with your board or continue to ramp. And so that's something that you need to keep in mind as you continue to play this. Especially with Amber Mine, you're going to be a little bit careful about that because card draw is very scarce for you. You might not be able to get everything that you need, and especially in this kind of matchup where you need to be aggressive, you need to be able to get as many cards in your hand and on the board as possible. So we see Silent Knight, of course, inking a Kita right then and there, which is a great move, going for a Smee and questing for 5. Now that Daisy trigger is going to be a big one because WhanDamme might be able to get something, and it is a Sail the Azurite Sea to the bottom of the deck, limiting some of his ramp that he could possibly have. Now, of course, there are a potential thing where he might be able to get a, one more climb and go to a How Far I'll Go. but at the same time, still missing out on the Sail to Your Azurite Sea, the card draw, and the ability to ink one more can be a really big deal. Because sometimes, what the nice thing about Ruby Sapphire is sometimes you're actually able to play, say a Sail the Azurite Sea when you have 4 ink out, and then a Tipo, which can be absolutely vital there. But instead, yeah, we see him going for 4 ink, going up on the card draw, which could be a very big power play as well, gaining 2 cards, and then passing it back to Silent Knight. But here's the tricky part. Silent Knight is already at 7 ink, and he has a big board. No brawls in hand have been played. That is a very, very scary situation for Juan here. He's going to have to really start to try to turn things around sooner rather than later. I mean, you're hoping maybe for a turn 5 Maui, something to start getting the control down. But I mean, at this point, too, Silent Knight, even at the end of this turn, can be threatening game next turn pretty handedly. And so a strength of the Raging Fire going out for a Rapunzel. I mean, at this point, yeah, it looks like Silent Knight is just going full on the aggression there, trying to get ahead. Now he's at 14. And with 6 on the board and only a Hiram on the board, you got to figure out how to get 2 of the characters off the board. Now, at the same time, it looks like Silent Knight has 2 cards in hand is all. And so if somehow, WhanDamme is able to deal with this board, this will be a very helpful thing to be able to get him back to the game. But still, at the same time, this is a very difficult board for him to have to deal with. And so, I mean, this is a great game 1 for Silent Knight. The aggro was very, very apparent and very well built in this case. And so he now has the board presence needed and is able to really make an impact on securing this game 1, which is exactly what he is going to need. And it looks like WhanDamme here is a little bit stuck on what to do. Doesn't look like he has a whole lot of answers in his board. And Silent Knight loses the webcam. It falls off. And his whole board state is lost for a second. And it looks like, yeah, he also has it stacked on an Everdell board game. Don't blame him. It's awesome. So only 1 card in hand, it looks, or 2 cards in hand. Yep, 2 cards in hand. And WhanDamme is tanking. There is a lot of difficult situations. And that's the nice part too with, playing as the opposer to this deck, especially if your opponent is seeing that, or if you're seeing that your opponent is tanking, really considering the options and not really playing fast, that can be a very difficult thing to be able to handle this kind of situation. And so to make it to where you can have an impact. I mean, this game is pretty much as good as done for Juan, unfortunately. Playing the How Far I'll Go is a great play for sure, but not when your opponent has game on the board. So, you might be able to deal 1 damage to the Smee, 1 damage to Piglet maybe. But even so, unfortunately, the removal is just missing the mark. And even with Hiram singing How Far I'll Go, having the 5 ink out, even with a Maui coming out onto the board, with its rush ability, unfortunately, this isn't gonna cut it for him. And we're in a very difficult situation where they might not be able to get ahead of this game. So it looks like, yep, exactly. A Maui's going to be coming in, taking out the Piglet, stopping that 3 ink. But at the same time, is it too little, too late? The nice part is, though, he's going to be able to be at 6 ink, which is good. And Silent Knight, oh, he only has 2 of the Let the Storm Rage On, but at the same time, it looks like WhanDamme is going to scoop it up and give Silent Knight the Game 1 victory. All right, and it looks like Juan is opting to go first this time, and at the same time, Silent Knight is still going to need to have the ability to try to get as aggressive of a board as possible. At the same time, WhanDamme is possibly going to be trying to figure out the balance between board control and ramp, because you don't want your opponent to get so far ahead that you're ultimately just going to lose the game. At the same time, if Silent Knight is able to get to even 16 lore by the time the opponent is able to get a B prepared out on the board, that's going to be a very difficult situation for Silent Knight to get the final 4 needed, because once you get to that 7, that 8, then at that point, you could be seeing the Maleficent Dragons, you could be seeing the Sizus, and the hard part about Amber, they don't have very high attack at all, which can be easily taken out by Sisu, and especially by Ice Block, which we see Juan playing here. absolutely great turn because you are able to take off an attack and really, take care of people's boards in ways that you might not be able to otherwise. And so Silent Knight is then going to be playing a Daisy and passing it back to Juan. And again, that strong start. Is he going to be able to play then a Piglet like he did last time? So this time, though, we see another item coming out, which makes, me think that at the same time that Juan might not have the Hiram in hand. If you are inking a item, normally you do want to have that out for the card draw, but it seems like that might be missing the mark without the Hiram in hand. And so you're always trying to pick up these kinds of context clues when you are going against your opponent. Any little clue of body language or anything like that can be a big difference maker in letting you know exactly what your opponent is having and what their decision making might be, which will allow you to be better prepared against your opponent. At the same time, Silent Knight still needs to be mindful of the brawls in hand. We saw Juan did not have those at all last time, and that absolutely was devastating to have to go against. And so this is something that they're hoping so this time they don't have to worry about. Juan can be able to get his head down, get his head in the game, and get things going. But here's the interesting thing right now there is no ramp. That's right, he missed his turn too, but luckily the Daisy trigger did end up adding a Sisu, but at the same time, that's good for Silent Knight to know that there is a Sisu in hand. Now, that's a big Sisu, mind you, and it has the ability to remove all characters on the board that have 2 or less attack. So that can be something that he really needs to keep in mind, especially as we start getting into the late game of this matchup. So Silent Knight might have a little bit of a difficult situation here, trying to figure out how to get as high of a lore count as possible before it gets too late. But at the same time, it looks like WhanDamme going to go ahead and ink another one. And he almost tapped his ice, which means the Smee's probably going to get brawled or a Sea-Suit. He used both ice blocks. So odds are the Smee is going to be getting Sisu is what I would. Yep, and there's the Sisu right there. And Smee is taken out in one fall swoop. Now, this is something that Silent Knight also needs to be mindful of because Sisu has the ability to shift in at a cost of 6. And so that means, potentially, not next turn, but the turn after that, a big Sisu could be coming in and clearing the board. So Silent Knight needs to figure out how to properly prepare for that. What could he possibly do? And it looks like in this case, he's going to be going for the Lawrence, and another Sisu is going to hand. So right now, we know that Juan has 2 Sisus in hand, which is absolutely destructive against Amber Steel, just because of their low attack count. And so at the same time, though, it's interesting because Silent Knight, I mean, he technically has 8 removals in his deck. You have 4 of Let the Storm Rage On and 4 Be King, or not Be King Undisputed, Strength of a Raging Fire, in order to have that proper removal. But really, I mean, they aim at going on the aggro here. And so this is going to be a very interesting kind of matchup to try to take care of this board. And right now, Juan is doing a great job at being able to do so. At the same time, you're hoping that he's going to be able to start ramping here pretty soon, because the more that he is able to ramp, a brawl going down for Ink. That's an interesting turn of events, especially with a Hiram then coming out, bringing back an ice block to draw 2 cards. And at the same time, though, that's kind of difficult to have to deal with now. But I mean, still having an ice block, you'll be able to take an opponent down 1 attack to be able to clear it out potentially. But that's going to keep the Lawrence safe for now. Still, at the same time, the Sisu could even, potentially try to dive in. Silent Knight, though, is going to be going ahead and singing Let the Storm Rage On to deal 2 damage to the Sisu to stop the big Sisu from coming in, which is a great move right there. And this is the difficult part, though. Inking a dock. And that dock allows characters to be coming into play 1 cheaper after he quests. And he quests for 2, which is a pretty good ability as well. And so the difficult part is Silent Knight still has a couple of options, of course, but he really needs to start hitting the aggression here. you know that he at least has 2 Sisus in hand. That is a very difficult board to have to deal with, especially in this situation. But Silent Knight's doing a decent job so far. 2 Lawrences coming out onto the board, meaning that the Sisus will not be able to target this as long as they have no damage. At the same time, with the Daisy trigger, we see a Tipo going to hand. And so this is Juan's turn. This is going to have to be a big turn for him, of course. If he can continue to get the board control, Silent Knight is struggling on being able to really hit the ground running with this deck, which is going to be a good turn of events for Juan. This is exactly what he's wanting to see. The wider Silent Knight goes, the harder this gets until he can play the Be Prepared, which very well could be next turn. If not next turn, then of course, yeah, there's the how far I'll go, so he'll still even be able to ink for turn on top of this, and he will be at 7, which very well could be the Be Prepared. Now, Silent Knight does have still 2 cards in hand from the looks of it, and so that is going to be a nice addition. And I also really like that Juan here also opted to have the Hiram be able to sing this song. That's a great play on his part as well, meaning that he still has the rest of his ink that he's going to be able to utilize to be able to get this going. So we'll be able to see what might be going on here and what they might be able to do as options. But it looks like a Maui's going to be coming out and taking out the Daisy, just continuing to shut down Silent Knight's ramp and aggression right here on the board. Now, of course, he's still going to be able to get to 10. But this, of course, is something now that Silent Knight's going to have to keep in mind. Does his opponent have the Sisu in hand? Well, we know he has a Sisu in hand, but does he have a Be Prepared? Because at the same time, yes, you're able to have now a board presence getting up to 10, which will then be taken out by a Maui for sure. That's a little bit scary. Silent Knight, of course, will still quest. He had the option to attack into the Maui, but it looks like he opted to go in for the lore anyway to continue to try to get to that in-game momentum right there to try to get ahead. The closer he can get to 20, the better chance he has, of course, of winning, especially when going against such a dominant deck. But your opponent's going to be having a good amount of cards in their hand. This is going to be a very difficult situation for Silent Knight to have to deal with. And right now, the longer the game goes, the more it goes into Juan's favor. So it's just a very difficult situation for Silent Knight to have to be in, and I don't know. Even though it's a 10-1 right now for the lore, it really feels like that this is just going to get further and further away from Silent Knight. And even right here, you see a Maui being able to sing another How Far I'll Go, adding more cards to hand, which means Juan will be able to have 3 cards in hand at this point and going up to 8 ink, meaning a Sisu very well could be in play, if not even for the sake of the board presence necessarily. Or for the board presence. It might not be removing much, but it'll have a great board presence and being able to quest for 3. But yep, there it goes. Looks like the Be Prepared is out. Also really kind of surprised that he did not go for the hitting of the Hiram, but for or the banishing of the ice block, which can be a very interesting to add 2 more cards, meaning that he would have 5 cards in hand. Which, yes, the ice block is going to be absolutely valuable, especially if he does end up playing a Hiram. And it looks like here, though, Silent Knight is going to be playing a Dock and a Pete, prolonging a song for return from the Pete's ability, and then drawing 2 cards from the Dock. Now, that's an absolute great play and a saving play, because now Silent Knight going into the next turn will have 3 cards in hand, which can really help him getting back into this game. But is it almost too little, too late? We're at the point of the game where Ruby Sapphire can just really, really start to dominate this field and really start to take the game. And so this is something that Silent Knight is going to have to be very mindful of. He's got to play fast. Will he have the options, especially after a Maui Shark is inked? Now, at the same time, the ice block is coming out. It's going to be targeting the Pete, and then we're going to be seeing the Sisu coming out, wiping Silent Knight's board. And it's like at this point, Silent Knight is just going to be, unfortunately, not getting a whole lot of board presence out. The ice block is going to be absolutely detrimental here to Silent Knight's board. And there's another Dock coming out onto the board as a Dwarven Mine is also inked. And so, I mean, this is at least giving Silent Knight a few options, but at the same time, there's still that second Sisu in WhanDamme's hand, and so that's going to be a difficult thing to have to deal with. Oh no, Silent Knight is playing, going wider. Oh no, the problem is the ice block will be able to be activated again, and then Silent Knight's board will be completely wiped. And so no cards in hand for Silent Knight. That's going to be a very difficult thing for him to have to battle through after this. I mean, at this point, he's going to be top decking against two Sisus. That's a dangerous thing to have to try to undertake right there. Very difficult situation for him to have to deal with. And, you hate to see it, unfortunately. And so it'll be interesting to see. And it looks like also there is a hideaway that is being inked. He is at 10. That is absolutely scary, but at the same time, yeah, it looks like that ice block is going to be targeting the Calhoun, and then 8 will be going out. Right? Yep, for another Sisu wiping Silent Knight's board, and at that point, you're pretty much securing the game. A Rapunzel will do absolutely nothing. Silent Knight's deck is not running a whole new world. There is nothing that he can really do. This is just such a difficult thing for Silent Knight to have to deal with, because right now, the Sisu is then going to be coming in. It's going to be questing for 6. That's going to put him already ahead of Silent Knight, who is then only going to be able to get to 12 with his 1 card on board. So it's like, at this point, yeah, this game is pretty much Juan's at this point. And we're going to be going into a 1-1 in the final game, in which Silent Knight will be going first. So there's a Grandma Tala. The nice part is he will be able to look at the top 2 cards, add 1 card to his hand, and put 1 at the bottom. Also, Grandma Tala is a 3/3, which is pretty good. 3/3 is a great thing, and being able to also add a card to hand, and also get more information from what could possibly be coming in your deck, that's awesome. So, this is a very difficult situation for Silent Knight to have to deal with. Pretty much this game is over, there's no board wipes or anything that can really put Silent Knight back in this game. There's nothing that Silent Knight can suddenly put out to quest for. We have 7 that he'll be able to quest for. Juan will be able to quest for to get to 18. To Silent Knight's, gonna be at 12 at the end of this turn. It's just not looking great for him, unfortunately, and so this is going to be a very difficult situation. A Piglet can help, but again, it's going to be too little, too late, unfortunately. And Juan also has 2 cards in hand, and at this point, the tough part is Silent Knight had a choice here on whether or not he could potentially quest with the Lilo, and I think this is still the right choice, because even if the Grammatala doesn't take out the Lilo, I mean, if it does, this following turn, if he never quested with the Lilo, he would be even further behind, only going up to 15 instead of 17. And so it's just a very difficult situation. But props to Silent Knight for playing it out. That's a great great way to at least try to get things going. But at the same time, the Maleficent Dragon is now coming out, and that's going to be a game. And it looks like Silent Knight is scooping. So with that said, it looks like WhanDamme has taken game 2. All right, we are in the final game. Silent Knight's going to be inking up heat and going for a daisy, starting strong. Now, we saw Juan take game 2. We saw Silent Knight take game 1. And right now, Silent Knight and both Juan are fighting for their lives right here and the chance to become victorious. This is going to be a very uphill battle, though, for the both of them. And they are racing against the clock for both of them on trying to see who can get more ahead. I mean, at this point, Silent Knight is just going to be going all in on the aggro. A Daisy, a Piglet. He's going to be questing for 5 potentially next turn. I mean, at this point, though, you're really hoping for Silent Knight's sake that your opponent doesn't have any brawls or anything like that. If he doesn't, then you can just keep getting ahead, keep ramping, because he might not be able to get anything out on the board until Grandma Tala on turn 3. Maybe, something else like that. You also see a Vitalosphere going down into the ink. And what's he going to do? Yep, it looks like a Tipo this time, meaning that he's able to place a card face down, any card that he wants as ink. The nice part is, too, is if he has an extra, card or something that he doesn't want to really play, he can then, or if he has a 1-cost after that, he could play it as well, but it looks like he doesn't have that option. Still, the T-Ball on board can at least deal 1 damage, but that's not going to do much to really stop the Piglet, so you're really hoping here that, they're not going to be able to continue to ramp, but another Piglet comes out onto the board. So Silent Knight, very well, if there's a brawl that comes out, he's still going to be able to quest for 5 as long as he has another character that's going to be coming out next turn. And Silent Knight is on turn 3 at 7, going to be threatening 12 on the following turn at minimum. 12 to 15 could very well be his presence if Juan does not have a brawl in hand. And so, I mean, you're just really crossing his fingers. Well, unless you're Silent Knight, you're crossing your fingers that he doesn't have a brawl, and everyone else probably crossing their fingers that Juan does have a brawl. This is a very tough thing because at this point, Silent Knight's also getting limited in the amount of cards that he can have in hand. The draw power for Amber Steel is very slim, and so you have to be very careful about your ink count as well as your cards in hand that you might be able to play. And so it looks like a brawl is coming out, taking down one of the Piglets, and Silent Knight just needs another character on board to get up to 12. Now, at the same time, that means Juan also has missed a little bit of his ramp to continue to have some board presence. That's a difficult sacrifice right there. Is that going to be enough? What is Silent Knight going to have but a Smee coming out to go ahead and quest for 5, going to 12, and of course, a Daisy trigger is going to be coming out, and it's going to be not a character in hand, but instead it goes to the bottom. Gosh, that is a difficult situation for Juan to find himself in. I mean, even just to have things to ink and to make your hand a little bit bigger, especially for the mid to late game, can be so helpful with the Daisy, especially if they're going aggressive. At the same time, Silent Knight is going to be currently going for 7. But it looks like another brawl is going to be coming out, taking out another Piglet. But I mean, the damage is already done. 6 lore has been done by the Piglets in 2 turns. That's insane. And that's also the power of Piglet. That's something that you just got to be so careful of. Also, the tricky part, though, is the longer that Juan is unable to ramp, the more that Silent Knight is going to be able to continue to gain. And it looks like right here as well, the Doc and the Smee are going to be coming out, adding 2 more cards to Silent Knight's hand. So at this point, he's not even going to be really inking at this point, and he has 2 cards that can really help get him going. And another miss on the Daisy. How far I'll go, going to the bottom of the deck. And this is just not what you want to see for Juan right here. I mean, Silent Knight, he's been lucky missing out with the Daisy hits. I mean, that is so difficult to be able to do. The fact that he was able to do so successfully says a lot, because that is not easy, to avoid there as well. And so, I mean, great job right there. The deck for Amber has been doing exactly what Silent Knight needs to do. He is threatening game. He is still 1 turn away from a Be Prepared. I mean, this is everything that he could have asked for and more in a game 3 to be able to take this match. Just absolute dominance by Silent Knight. Just could not go better for him in this case. The card draw, the Smees, the Piglets, starting with a turn 1 Daisy. And at the same time, that's the biggest thing that you try to do as well. Both players, Juan goes ahead and tries to get rid of everything to try to get all the ramp in hand. Maybe removal once you know you're going against Amber Steel. And then at the same time for Silent Knight, you're mulling again every single card that is not going to help you be aggro. And it looks like in this case, Silent Knight literally got pretty much the perfect, cards to be able to be aggro. And I mean, just absolutely incredible to be able to see. Well done by Silent Knight for this game 3. I mean, just you couldn't ask for a better hand and draw that he had right here to be able to take this game. It looks like there's not anything that, Juan's going to be able to do after playing the Grandma Tala. There's not going to be much that he can do to get board control. Silent Knight being at 16, it sucks. for Juan's case at least. But I mean, this is just such a quick game. Usually we see these matches, especially going into Game 3, lasting between 30 and 40 minutes. But nope, not with Amber Steel. It went rather quick. So just crazy to be able to see. Vitalosphere can help at least do a little bit of board control, but still at the same time, you're only going to be able to take out maybe a Smee or a Daisy. The choice is yours. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do both, and that's a little difficult as well. And so the Tipo is going to be boosted, and the Smee is going to be taken out. And right then and there, Silent Knight is going to just draw. And yes, it looks like he is going to quest with everything for the game, getting to 20. And just like that, Silent Knight goes ahead and takes Game 3 and the match. All right, that was an absolutely thrilling match in which we were able to see Amber Steel and the aggression that is able to maintain. Now, of course, this really came down to Juan doing a great job Game 2, being able to get some good board control, taking care of Silent Knight's hand long enough to continue his ramp, and then being able to really dominate the board with a Be Prepared. That's kind of the biggest thing that you need to hope for with Ruby Sapphire, is that you are able to get to a Be Prepared as fast as possible and just take out your opponent's board, because the difficult thing is that Amber Steel does not have the draw that it necessarily needs to, just like the other decks have. I mean, decks can draw cards like crazy. Amber Steel, nope, not them. But with that being said, guys, this was an absolutely thrilling match. Really excited that we were able to cast this one. And if you want to, again, join this league, go ahead and join the Discord down below. Join, and you will get your matchup on the following Monday. Great to have you guys here. We're excited to bring you many more matches ahead. Stay tuned, and until next time, have a good one.